I know for a fact, just from some of the people that I've talked to, that there is a lot of pressure. Like just sitting back and saying nothing all of a sudden isn't good enough anymore. It's like you have to pick a side, and
Right.
you better toe the company line. The NFL is a company, the NHL, these are all companies or corporations with small little divisions, which are the teams underneath them. If you got to do what you got to do to make sure you're going to keep getting that paycheck. And I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm not walking in those shoes either. So
hey everyone, welcome back to American Snippets. Once again, my name is Dave Brown. Appreciate you being here today. Our guest today is an Army veteran who founded a publishing company called Tactical 16. For years, that company worked with primarily authors in the armed forces, police, fire, and rescue communities in a hybrid publishing model designed to be an affordable yet powerful outlet so those folks could write and publish their books. Having recently stepped away from running that company, he has moved into the same work for professional athletes. Not only that, he's also, which is pretty cool, a member of the United States Space Force, and he continues to offer brand and marketing support to the company that he founded, Tactical 16. Today, he's going to be sharing the ins and outs of the publishing world and offers a sneak peek into his work with the United States Space Force. So please help me welcome Erik Shaw to the American Snippets podcast. Today, Erik will be talking about his experiences working with professional athletes, how politics has entered their profession, as well as how it could impact their own personal brand. So without further ado, here is Barbara Allen with Erik Shaw.
Let's get into it today, Erik, and talk about your story and your message and how people today facing all of this uncertainty can learn from you to adapt and overcome all the insanity that's in front of them.
Right. So we launched Tactical 16 on a Thursday in 2012, and we get a phone call from Fox News. They want us to come on and tell our story about why we're doing it. And I mean, we only had 3 days really to put our story together. We really didn't know our story at that point. So, we were just trying to jump out there and help as many people as we could. And we didn't realize it was going to be such a roller coaster of a ride. And, that Sunday we went on Fox News, and it's just never slowed down for us ever since then. So it's been awesome. It's allowed me to do some really cool stuff and get involved with some really cool people. And, like I was saying before, I have a hard time saying no. So I'm just constantly going down these other little roads and, looking for opportunities. But, the main focus has always been trying to help people that are struggling a little bit. And we have an outlet to help. So, why wouldn't I do it?
Yeah. So let me back that up for 1 second. I want to just clarify for everybody what Tactical 16 is, and then ask you, how does that go? That's everybody's dream, to found a company on a Thursday and be on a national platform on a Sunday. So I need to find out how that happened as well. So let's go into first, explain what Tactical 16 is.
So Tactical 16, we launched in 2012. A lot of veterans at that time frame were starting to jump into the entrepreneur world, and a lot of them were starting to get into writing books. And the book deals that these guys were getting were terrible. I mean, I can remember talking to some of these authors that became very popular and successful outside of their book. But I'd ask and be like, what are you getting? Like, how are you making money off this book? And they're like, oh, I'm not making any money off the book. And I'm like, well, what's the point?
I'm familiar with that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And, that really bothered me, because that was right around the time I was getting asked by some companies, hey, you ever thought about publishing your book? And one of these publishing companies was going to give me 5%, which, I was new at that time. And then talking to some of these other authors, they're like, man, that was a pretty good deal. They offered you 5% for your first attempt. I was like, 5%, that just seems absurd. So rather than me signing with a company and having a ghostwriter tell my story the way the publishing company wanted us to tell it, we launched Tactical 16 and allowed the authors to tell the story they wanted to tell it. We wanted that therapeutic aspect and the benefits of getting it out there on paper, but we also wanted the author to potentially be able to support themselves as a living. So our profits were way higher than 5%. So
yeah. So you decided to launch that, and you had your official launch on that, and you were working with a partner, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a partner at the time. Him and his wife are very business minded. I'm more of a talker, so I just thought, hey, we can do everything we want, and they were always like, no, we need to, slow it down a little bit. Can't just go buying blimps and Ferraris and Lamborghinis now. We gotta pace ourselves. So I was always grateful for them, and they're still dear friends to this day too. But they deserve a lot of credit for where we put the company today.
So how does that happen then? You have your launch. How did Fox News get wind of you and you wind up, and I'm sure that thrilled your business partners who were like, now
Yeah,
they're like, oh man,
I don't know if thrilled's the
a
word we're
mixed
looking
blessing,
for.
right? Like what?
Right. It was one of those deals too where you can't say no.
Yeah.
I mean, you pass up on that, that opportunity might not come back around again. So I called him up and said, hey, Fox News reached out to us, and his first thought was kind of like the local Fox affiliate here.
Yeah.
I was like, no, man, I think this is the big one. I think we're going national right out of the box. So yeah, he was the IT guy too. So like as soon as we went on there, our websites crashed, our servers went down. I mean, everything just folded in on itself. But we rebounded, and everything worked out well for that. And
so how did they just find out?
He had
about
gray hair. We had a friend out in Maryland at the time that was working for Discovery Channel, that conglomerate of networks. He said, hey man, I got these friends down at Fox. They're looking for a story for Sunday. Would you be interested? And I didn't ask anybody. I was like, yeah, we're in. So I had never done media before at that point. So, I'm just trying to basically Google how to do a news interview, and, just trying to be classy and keep my hands where they're supposed to be and all that stuff. And it was a cool experience. I thought that was going to kind of be it. I really thought that was going to be our 15 minutes, and we get our 15 minutes and then roll out, but it kept going, and, it's still moving into the new phase now. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah. Onward. So the goal of Tactical 16 was largely focused at helping veterans tell their stories and doing so in a way that not only benefited them emotionally, but practically as well, and helping them earn an income and get a footing in a professional world through then, which I know as somebody who's put out 2 books on my own and learned exactly how not to publish a book. I could write that book. Here's how to make sure you never make a dime on your book, how to do that. And here's to make sure here's how to lose money on your book. I could write that book as well.
Yeah, right.
And so I know personally that is a huge service you're providing, especially with stories that need to be told. A lot of people have these stories and these messages that just need to be heard, not only for their own benefit, but for others as well. But at some point you decided you took this company so far, and I see it everywhere. I know people who have published through you and gone through you, and I've seen you at events and your company at events and heard nothing but good things about you. But at some point, even though you're riding the successful company, no, you're not riding it, you're driving the successful company, you decided it's time for you to step back. Yes?
Yeah. That was, we made that decision. We started to make that decision 2 years ago. I just really felt like I just couldn't take it any further. And like we've talked before, you can help 10 people, and it's that one person you don't help that just wants to destroy everything you've ever tried to accomplish. And stuff was starting to get personal. I had a daughter that was starting high school. I just didn't want to. And as you know, I mean, running a business, that's an 18 to 20 hour a day deal. You try to cut back, and a short day is 15 hours. So yeah. You're missing out on family time. You're missing out on all the cool stuff that's going on. Friends and family are doing stuff, and it just became a burden. It wasn't fun anymore for me. My government job was really starting to take off. I was going down all these other avenues, and you just reach a point where something has to go. And very proud, very happy with what we did with Tactical 16. I have a friend out here, retired Special Forces warrant officer. He's like, man, I'd love to take Tactical 16 over. And I was like, you're the guy. So, when in doubt, call in the Special Forces and let them take the ball. So that's what he's done. And he's moving the company in the right direction. He's definitely taking it places where I'd never even thought about taking it. So it's going to be really fun for me to still stick around as the founder and be involved in some decision making, but to watch him and his vision hopefully take it to that next level is going to be cool. It's going to be pretty inspiring. I think we're going to actually have a bigger reach when it's all said and done to help more people beyond veterans, which is something I kind of wanted to get into as well.
Yeah. What is that demographic that you're referring to?
So the law enforcement community, obviously, that was a big one. Just people in general that just have traumatic stories that they want to tell, but they don't know how. And if we can help them tell that story and also educate the public as to what some of this stuff that's going on, and we're kind of the point financially where we can take more risks on some of these books. And we've had books that I thought were terrible, and I was like, yeah, that book was garbage. But I'll run into somebody and they'll be like, man, that book was amazing. It changed my life, so to speak. And I come back and eat my words, But that part's cool to be able to help people through stories.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And that it is a very personal thing. Okay, so you mentioned your government job, which is?
I do satellite stuff for the U.S. Space Force now.
See, you can't even say that without smirking. It's just a cool thing to say. I work for the Space Force.
Well, it wasn't even like I asked for it. I just came into work one day and like, you're Space Force. Like, that's
seriously
how we're doing this. So, yeah.
So what is that like? I mean, you are actually the very first person I have come across firsthand who works with the Space Force. And kidding aside, it seems like a fascinating area to be branching out into. Is it different? Is it different than what you had envisioned it would be? Is it the same? Like what?
I've been doing space operations stuff for the government since 2010. I was doing it with the Army. I've worked with the Navy, worked with the Air Force, and now Space Force doing this stuff. There's a definite need for it. I believe there's been a need for it since the 90s. That's when this concept kind of first started getting thrown around a little bit under the Clinton administration. There's a growing threat. There's stuff that is going on that this Space Force is going to be able to defend and protect against. It's just, and the mission itself is still going. The airmen from the Air Force are still running it professionally and the way they're supposed to. It's just now getting everything under one roof and under one set of leadership with one set of guidelines versus working with four branches and having all those ideas and opinions at the same time. That's kind of where we're having a little bit of growing pains, but it's nothing that probably we should have expected that. And we'll get through it, and Space Force will quietly be defenders of the world. So we'll see what happens.
So, and obviously if there's areas that you can't talk about, that's fine. But I know that there are a lot of people who kind of also just make fun of it. Like, oh, we're doing a Space Force. Like it's all a big joke. And it's just another ridiculous thing that this president is dreamed up to satisfy his own like interest or urge or whatever you want to call it. But you're saying that the actual work has been done prior to this administration, and it's not the like Hollywood kind of crazy things that people are saying it is.
No, this has been on the talk with the last probably 3 administrations we've had. We've known we were going to need an asset like this within the government and within the military. It was just a matter of funding for one, obviously, and then who was going to go for it and say yes. And we got the guy in there now that's not afraid to do that stuff. So here we are, Space Force.
That's true. So what are some of the threats that you're talking about? Are they more like natural, like asteroids and stuff, or are they other countries who are
there's other countries up there, and they're trying to poke and
satellites and all
prod.
that? Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of stuff happening up there that, and it's all public record. People can read about it. I don't think
no one wants to read about it. They just want to talk about it.
Exactly. And I have to read about it and not talk about it. So there's just a lot going on up there that could be detrimental to our national security if left unchecked. So that's we're just making sure everybody's playing by the rules.
Yeah. I'm actually really so glad that I got the opportunity to talk a little bit about that. That was like an unexpected little nugget or sprinkle on top of this, because that's something we haven't been able to offer our community before. And I know that there was a lot of talk about this and how ridiculous it was and a waste of money. So you were officially the first person who's been able to fill in some of those gaps for us. And I think as Americans as a whole, even just hearing, maybe being able to relax a little, that on the one area, like all is not as it appears, like look behind the headlines, there's more to it than this. And when it's explained in such a matter-of-fact way and you take all the crap and tabloids out of it, it makes it makes perfect sense, really. It just also happens to sound pretty cool. Space.
Well, yeah, right.
I mean, it's just not going to not sound cool. Okay, but you are also now, because you're a multitasker and a job and a father and a family, and some dogs that look pretty funny.
Yeah, right.
Isn't enough for you. You're still working with authors, and on top of working with Tactical 16, the company itself, to promote the growth of the company and its brand, you're working now. Did I see you're working with NFL players and professional athletes? Is that something you're doing on your own or with the company?
It's a little bit of both. I didn't realize so many athletes were interested in writing, and through a mutual friend you and me have, Tim Clune down in Dallas.
Crazy TK.
Yeah, all day, huh? So you want to talk about a multitasker? He's the one.
No kidding.
I've met I knew some NFL guys before I started kind of hanging out with him and his circle of friends, and getting down there and hanging out with him, and then people find out that I'm the book guy. So just talking to these guys and listening to their stories of how they've persevered and some of the stuff they've gone through to get to that high level of sports and athletics. I'm like, there's some stories here people would like to read and hear about. It's a different side than what we see on the media. The media just tends to not get the whole story and they don't care. Whereas I'm always focused on the whole story. I want to paint the whole picture. So, and these guys, they all got some pretty amazing stories as well. And just advising them on some ideas, and some of them go with other publishers and stuff like that. And that's fine. But, like you were saying, we need to educate them on how not to lose money in this deal, because it can happen really quick. Like you blink and you just lost a substantial amount of money for nothing. So it's been more along those lines. So when I work with those guys, they'll have questions about what their contract should look like. And like, this is a contract I would sign, or this is a contract I wouldn't sign. Type of advice I give back. So it's been fun to be able to help them with that too, and actually keep them on target when they're writing their stuff.
All right. So I know that you make it a point to kind of stay above the politics, and probably when you went down this road, that was easier to do. But now it seems like you can't, sneeze without spraying into your mask. Things have just gotten crazy, right? So right. I'm curious to know if that has impacted, there's a lot of people who've lost a lot of love for professional athletes, beginning with the NFL players that seem to start the trend. But now it seems to be branching out into the world of professional athletes as a whole, that part of the country is cheering them and championing them, and part of them despises them and could give a shit if they ever come back and play another game at all. And given the fact that you're doing what you're doing, I'm imagining that's trickling into how you're going to be able to share their stories, or what part of their stories, or the interest level in their stories, or their willingness to come forward. Is it, or am I just completely off base on that?
No, you're 100%. And with my military background and everything we've done, I think there's mutual respect between me and some of these athletes that we deal with. They're very cognizant of my viewpoints and my where I stand, as an American, and I'm cognizant of theirs too. I respect their opinions and thoughts. I don't always agree with the way that stuff is being handled, but this is America. You handle it the way you want to handle it. Do what you can afford is what I always tell people. So and I have kind of that's been the one sort of point I've brought up is there's a real good chance you're going to lose a lot of money, doing some of this stuff that's going on out there. And, some guys get it, some guys don't. I think people like you and myself and in our circles, we're a little bit older, a little bit more mature. We've got some life under us at this point. And when you're talking to a 21-year-old kid that just signed a $35 million contract, it's a different world for them. And the real world stuff hasn't hit them yet. But, I've kind of just given them my 10 cents and said that the real world could hit you pretty quick, and it's going to hit you in the wallet. And that's not a place where I prefer to get hit, so, we'll see what happens. It's sad. Everything has become so divisive. Sports for me used to just be I could sit down and watch a game for 2 hours and not think about that other stuff. Now it's just everywhere, like you said.
Yeah. And for me, when I had a conversation with someone who I respect a lot, and she's on the other side of the issues than I am in particular, she was saying pretty much, well, good, that's the point. If it's uncomfortable for all of us, it should be uncomfortable for all of you. And I don't see that there's going to be a way past that impasse anytime soon, really. But I was curious as to how did you started down this path before COVID hit and before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got on this path around the time Kaepernick took the knee.
Smart. Yeah.
Why not? If you're going to jump in now. So I
just jump.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a high one. But I just had a lot of guys reaching out to me asking how I felt about that. And at that time there was confusion with some of the athletes on how they should go about doing this. And I just said that this is what I think. I'm not going to change my opinions. And then I just ended it with this could get really expensive really quick. So It has, they're losing money like crazy, and just like it, what's it worth to you?
Yeah, I think they probably can afford to. And last note on this, because it's interesting, and you keep bringing up points. I have a friend whose son plays college football, and he was recruited to that college specifically. He's extremely talented, who was getting along fine in the first year, playing on the team, all is good. All of this uproar, happens. And now he is mandated to kneel with his team. He's told he has to kneel. He's not given a choice. He's told to kneel. He's told he will wear a social justice quote on his jersey, and it's not up for debate.
Right.
This is what you're going to do. And I don't know. I will be interested to see if stories come out down the road, if other athletes are feeling pressured to do the same or not. I think we're going to hear a lot down the road of people did things that they didn't want to, or didn't do things that they do want to. Everyone's acting now, it seems, in a way that they just want to be accepted rather than be authentic. And the people who are saying, let's be authentic, are really full of shit because they're not authentic at all.
Well, there's, I know for a fact, just from some of the people that I've talked to, that there is a lot of pressure. Like just sitting back and saying nothing all of a sudden isn't good enough anymore. It's like you have to pick a side, and you better toe the company line. The NFL is a company, the NHL, these are all companies or corporations with small little divisions, which are the teams underneath them. If you got to do what you got to do to make sure you're going to keep getting that paycheck. And I don't necessarily agree with it, but I'm not walking in those shoes either. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to see if all new leagues open up, right? If all new, I think people are just going to buy up and create new leagues, and that's going to be the end of leagues as we know it, in my personal wise opinion anyway. Who knows nothing about sports, but looking at
I
the
don't think you're that
industry,
far off.
you know,
And you're
looking at
gonna
the
need,
industry as a whole, it's an opportunity, I think, for other
yeah.
people.
And if they need a commissioner, I'm going to send in your resume. So we'll put you to work.
There you go. I'm on it. But you, sir, have found a very creative way to but to create your own bridge over this, because you can't hop on social media. Social media is kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? It's easy
Right.
to pop off that and step away and leave it. But then again, if you're building a business and you want to grow your reach and you want to stay in touch, you want to stay relevant, today's world, you have to be on social media really to do that, unless you're like in that kind of dark underworld connected, whatever it is, you know. But most people need to be on social media to be relevant. And so for most people, it's kind of like an energy suck, you know, to go
Yeah.
on. So for me, when I'm doing my thing, it is an energy suck and I'm getting annihilated, like attacked by all sorts of people for going out there. I love the fact that I can always hop over to Erik Shaw's page and like you are an oasis in the sea of the insanity out there. Let's talk about your own page for a little bit. And I imagine that this would have never even crossed your mind that it would be a topic, but now it is.
Yeah. This is the first time I've actually had to talk about it on an interview. So this is fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like you know, like we've talked in the past, I'm probably 3 or 4 years ahead of where you are with social media and that stuff. Like you're getting all the hate I got back in like 2015,
Yeah.
you know, and you're right. It's just draining because you're trying to do the right thing. And we never back down from anything. If I felt it was right, I posted it. And if people took it the wrong way, so be it. If I was wrong, I apologize, but I normally do research on the stuff I post and, you know, I stand behind it. So, but you just get tired of arguing. It's the same arguments over and over again. I mean, you can only get called a racist so many times. And it's just like, what am I even doing this for? But again, like you said, we're trapped to social media if we want to keep doing what we're doing. So I just was like, man, I'm just going to make people laugh on here. I'll throw out some stuff every now and then with my opinion attached to it, just so people know I'm a human. But
Right.
I'm like, I just want to make people laugh and enjoy themselves. And I didn't expect the reaction I got out of it. Like I'd go on there, post something stupid and get like 10 likes and be like, oh, that's awesome. And then 10 turned into 30, then to 40. Then, you know, I've posted stuff on there and you get 300-400 likes and you're like, all this was a picture I stole from somebody else's site. Like I didn't even make it, you know? So, but I think that's where we are as a society. People are tired, man. They're mentally drained and they're mentally drained and they're addicted to social media. So how can I help both of those things? And I've just found humor is the way to do it. And that's allowed me to, you know, raise money for some charities along the way and still keep my name out there a little bit, but I definitely enjoy playing my little part in this crazy world, and especially in the COVID world, of just making people laugh a little bit. And, you know, that was the whole point of social media to begin with. It was never supposed to be what the garbage it's turned into today.
Yeah. I think there is a value to the platforms now, but it's also a danger to the platforms in that it is just doing all sorts of crazy things. I compare it, I think, to driving, right? People like drive down the road and cut you off and slam into you because they have the anonymity almost of the car. But if they're in the store, like looking at you face to face, they're not going to like cut you off and elbow you and get you out of line and curse you out when they're standing right in front of you. But just something about that separation. Huh? Well, now, yeah, now that's not the case.
Yeah, people I hang out with they'll cut me off and elbow me any chance they get, you know. But
total strangers, total strangers are not gonna, you know, with the exception of the
right.
insane people like doing insane things in the world out there today. So, where is your next leap gonna be? Where are you headed?
I got opportunities galore. I'm just at the point right now where I want to get my daughter through high school. You know, we got 3 more years of that. It's been really awesome to take a step back and just be dad, not have all this other stuff going on. And just advise if Chris calls with a question, I just give a quick answer and then I'm back off the phone. It's not a 5-hour, Saturday work night running a business anymore. So, and then once she gets past high school into college, I think we'll probably jump in on some opportunities that I'm already seeing starting to grow, and we'll just see where that road takes us. We've been very good at making the right decisions and teaming up with the right people, and I let these young entrepreneurs know all the time. Every one of my friends, no matter what their industry they're the best in the business at what they do. So I've surrounded myself around those types of people. So just pass the knowledge off to these younger vets or that want to get into business, or just younger college people in general that have questions. And I let them know you're probably not going to go on Fox News 3 days after you launch. So don't expect that. But
these results are not typical.
Yeah, exactly. A little fine print when I talk to people. So, but they get it and they're receptive. I'll keep doing the speech thing when, if normal times ever come back again. I was sitting here thinking before we came on here, I said, this is the longest I've ever gone without having to travel somewhere to give a speech, do an event. Like, this is normally a busy time for my wife and myself, just traveling and seeing people. And, we haven't done anything. So I complained about it before COVID. I don't think I'll complain about it after COVID.
Right.
I definitely miss seeing some of you guys in person and talking about the next big plans all of us are doing. So,
yeah, isn't it interesting to see? And our communities overlap, yours and mine, a lot. And a lot of the people that we do have that overlap with are people who are like, you take that initial hit, you're like, what the hell, man? And you get pissed for a minute, and then you're like, okay, but let's figure this out from here. And isn't it great to see what people are doing and figuring out because of this? Almost, we've seen some really creative solutions to.
Yeah, you're starting to see the players against the pretenders now. The people that are really out here making it happen and have been. I think they've kind of been buried with this large crowd of people that are all trying to do the same thing. And now the cream's kind of rising to the top, especially in our communities. I've definitely seen some amazing potential solutions and overrides the problems to keep stuff moving forward. And that's been inspirational. I hope that innovative spirit continues after COVID.
Yeah.
And we don't go back to getting lazy again and taking stuff for granted, but only time will tell on that one.
It's human nature, I think, to take things for granted. And that you're just not going to, 9/11 was our last big wake up call prior to this. And that was a big eye opener for a lot of people. And now again, a lot of eyes are being opened. And I personally consider myself lucky to surround myself with people like you and our mutual friends, because a few years ago, I would have just, fallen right into the victim, sit back, hope for my COVID check to carry through, and just
right.
And just said, well, nothing I can do about it. It's not my fault, and just waited for this to lift and employed hope as a strategy and all of that stuff. So I love that I get to surround myself with people like you, and that we get to bring you to our community. Like, such important, powerful messages, I think. But let's take it back even further now, because I feel like I heard you talk before and say that since you were a young kid, you were always interested in being in the military. You played with the G.I. Joes and all that stuff. And
I
wanted to be a...
They're sitting right behind you and behind this camera. So still got them.
What is that? Do you have siblings? Do you have a military family? Like, where did that come from?
My mom and dad were both Air Force. They did like 6 years, each. They had short careers. Grandpap was in the Army. My dad and my grandpap were both Pittsburgh City police officers, almost like 60 years straight. They were on the police department. So just always had that sort of lifestyle instilled in me. Military members were always heroes to me. I always thought they were larger than life when I was a little kid. And, going to Desert Storm was the big one for me that I was old enough to remember what happened and seeing the results and seeing the response from the American people during that time. I mean, that just stuck with me. So I knew I always wanted to do the military. And then, I hit 18 years old. I'm like, oh, this is it. We're going for it. And I got cold feet. I did not join right away. So tried to make some stuff happen on my own. And it was just a big disaster. Turned 20 and was like, I got to do something. So the Army looked amazing at that point. And, it was the best decision I ever made looking back on it. I wish I would have gone at 18.
Well, I mean, 18 to 20 are probably the most opportune times in your life to just take a couple of years back and put your life in a blender, because once you do it after that, you tend to have families and other people relying on you. And if you're going to go through some sort of turbulent times, I think it's best to do it when there's nobody else depending on you. So I feel like you did it just right.
Yeah,
matters.
I think it was after my second go in the local shopping mall in Pittsburgh after working in every one of them stores. This isn't
more than this.
Yeah. So that's that Army recruiter, man. He looked amazing when he finally showed up at my house with the paperwork. It's like, we're doing this time.
I bet. So at what point did you meet your wife? Was it that during your military career?
Yeah, she was in the Army as well. I met her. She was stationed in Korea with me. We were both in the same unit, and we were both coming off terrible, relationships, and we're looking for this fresh, clean start. And 15 years later, we're still rocking and rolling. So that was a very amazing encounter. I'm glad it happened. I didn't want anything to do with Korea, and then, looking back on it, it made sense. Timing was perfect on that one. So that one worked out well for us.
Sometimes things that you think are a curse turn out to be the biggest blessings.
Right. And I don't force anything anymore. Even if I'm presented with stuff, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know if I want to do it. All right. I'll push forward and do it. And then it works out. So
it turns to something, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen? The worst can happen is you learn something, you waste some time, you meet someone cool, you do something different, and you have another memory, another story to tell.
Exactly. Another interview for another day.
But that I think does take some wisdom and, and years under your belt before you just understand the power of living like that. I think anyway, there are certainly younger people who do that, but for the most part, once you learn to figure it out that way, it just becomes your way of life. Sure, I'll try that. Do people look at you all the time like, Erik, you're crazy. Like, why are you doing that?
Oh yeah. My parents are still just floored that all this has happened, because they're just like, and that's a different generation too. I don't think that generation. Well, I take that back. That generation did what they had to do. Our generation has a little bit more technological advantage. So some of the stuff we're doing looks like we're taking risks, but really it's just kind of the way of the world now. It looks a little scarier than it is to somebody that's not familiar with the way that we operate. So, and then, like I said before, surrounding yourself around good people, they're not going to let you down. I mean, they're going to come out with some outlandish stuff from time to time where you're like, ooh, I don't know. Like I'll buy it. Yeah, I'll ride or die with him any day of the week, but someday I'll be like, what do we get into this time, man? So
yeah. But and for those of you, I know I'm making TK references. We interviewed him back in episode something earlier, and I'll put a link to his story as well. But he's another example of just this great person who connects other great people, I think, and is a mover and shaker in this world. And you gotta have friends like that.
Yeah, and he's one of the few that does it old school and new school.
Yes.
Like there's nothing going to stop that dude. So that's definitely the type of people surrounding yourself around benefits you. And, you reach those days where you're just out of ideas. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to call somebody like TK. He's going to throw 7,000 ideas at me. I only need one. So we'll see what he comes up with. So
right. And, you just brought up an important point, which I'm glad you did as well, because there's going to be a lot of people who listen to this now who feel like every idea they have is thwarted by COVID, or they live in a city that's being rioted and torn apart, or they're fine, or COVID, again, or just the regular problems on top of COVID, and they're going to seem insurmountable. So what would be your advice for somebody who feels exactly like you just said, like they're fresh out of ideas and the spirit is willing, but the ideas and the resources feel weak?
If the spirit is willing, there's hope. We all have our bad days, and like COVID to me has been a blessing because it's allowed me to reconnect with my family. We're pretty easygoing and laid back, so it's been really awesome to hang out with them. My wife might not say that all the time. She's been working from home the whole time, but I've enjoyed, being around them, and she has too, and being able to hang out with our daughter because she's busy with sports and stuff normally 7 days a week. So it's allowed for a mental reset, if you will, and for entrepreneurs and stuff like that, take this time to reload, write down every idea you got. Some are going to be stupid, but you only need one to hit, and if you're going to sit on your thumbs and not do nothing, nothing's going to hit. So if that's the way you want to go, mentally reset, slowly push forward. Now's the time. Nothing's going on really. Every time we think we're taking a step forward, we're putting more masks on and getting banned from stuff. So, just sit back, relax, and work on that next big idea.
I love it. All right. So one question that I have to ask, the reason that we started American Snippets years ago was when we thought our country was divided. Then we thought, we felt the wave of hate and anger and divisiveness 3 years ago. We had no idea. We'd only seen the tip of that particular spear. But we realized that one of the things was that the American dream itself was under attack. And there was a new line of thought coming out, almost focus on making everybody believe that American dream is not possible anymore. It's only possible to a select few people. Some people have access to it. Some people don't. Here's the reasons it's dead. Here's the reasons it's bullshit, all of that, right? But we believe that it's the opposite. We believe it's alive and well and available to anybody who is really willing to dig in and get dirty and go for it. But the key factor is that we understand it looks different for everybody. We all have our own idea of what our particular American dream is. So I'd like to ask you, what is your version of that American dream?
Without sounding, like a jerk, I'm living it. I mean, I joined the Army with $200. That's all I had left. And that was money my grandmother gave me. So technically I didn't have anything when I joined the Army. I had the clothes in my bag and that $200. And, when I look back at, that was pre 9/11, 2001, I had that $200, and I'd like to think she's looking down and saying that was a good investment, because we've definitely made more than $200 since then. So, I just was never satisfied. I always knew I could do more, and just kept chasing that dream and going after it. And if I can do it, I know anybody can. I mean, I did all that on a high school diploma. There's people out here way more educated than me that are like, oh, I can't do this and get this all done. I'm like, yeah, you can. It's going to take some time. And, if you're getting into business and you're okay with not getting a paycheck for 2 or 3 years, and you can get through that, you can pretty much get through anything. So, I don't have bad days anymore. I just wake up, smile, laugh, post stupid shit on Facebook for people to laugh at, and, move on about my day. But I don't think anything that I've done has been so miraculous that somebody else can't just call me up and say, hey, how'd you do that? And I'll be like, that was it. That was pretty easy. It was like 5 steps. Wasn't anything, out of this world.
Nice. All right. So did you have that hard time after the military? Did you come out of the military and just fall into this line of work you're in now, or was there that gap?
No, we struggled big time. I got out of active duty in 2006. I joined the Army Reserves, and that was probably the best thing that I ever did. But, I got out of active duty. I didn't have a degree. I had a job from the Army that didn't translate to anything. I had TBI, had PTSD, had all this post-combat stuff going on that I wasn't having diagnosed or treated, because I didn't want that to stop me from getting potential jobs down the road. So I'm trying to treat stuff on my own. And, it was a big disaster. I really put my wife through the ringer during that time frame. And life was coming at me 100 miles an hour. I had a 4-year-old at that point that, I gotta feed the family, and I can't. I don't have anything to offer anybody to do it. So that was kind of that's when the reinvention of my life and career and professional and family, all that stuff, that all started. I look back, and that time sucked so bad. It could have broke a lot of people, but now to where I am now, I'm grateful that happened, because it really makes me appreciate the people I've met, the stuff we've got to do, and all the stuff that comes with that. So yeah, I don't wish that on anybody, but I don't know if it could have got any lower, but people can come back from it. You just gotta take one foot at a time and make that dedication to doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, that's unfortunately something we see a lot with, in particular, people who leave the military, especially with that combat experience behind them, but it's not really behind you all, it's so with you in a lot of ways. I talk to World War II veterans today who will break down as they relive the moments, and something that I know will never really leave you, but it's also applicable to other people who lose any kind of sense of purpose, right? If a marriage falls apart, or if a job goes away, like especially now, with COVID, or you lose somebody special to you in your life, whatever that may be, you lose a physical function that you had before, that you can't do the thing you want. So what would be any kind of nuggets of wisdom you have for someone who is on the precipice of that gap between the life they built their identity on, that has been taken from them for whatever reason, and how to get over that gap to rebuild a whole new identity?
I think when we're going through struggles in life, and life is all ups and downs, we become compartmentalized to the point where we think we're the only ones going through this. Just because your neighbor's over there smiling, having a great time, living their best life, you tend to think, well, they don't care about me. They don't understand what I'm going through. And when I got out of the military, I really felt that people owed me one. Like, man, I just went through this shit in Iraq. Like, people owe me something for this, and it's not the case. You got to break yourself of those chains and come out of that compartmentalized mindset. And don't be afraid to ask for help. There's so many resources out there for anything from mental to professional help that you can reach out for and start to build your life over again. And sometimes on the professional side, you got to take a pay cut to take that next step, and you just got to kind of humble yourself and realize, hey, I just got dealt a really bad hand. Now I got to move forward and just put your shoes on and roll forward. It's pretty easy. It's just, I understand the people that are struggling. And getting back to social media again, you go on there and everybody's living their best life on social media. Nobody ever posts the bad stuff, or if they do, it's political. So you're just surrounded by a lot of fake living from people that are outside influences on your life. And I can definitely see how people could that are depressed become even more depressed, seeing that. And you just got to block all that stuff off and, smile and move forward.
Love it. Erik, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. I feel like all these areas you've gone into, I could sit down with you and go down independently for an hour or more, or however long.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, it'd be great. If people want to connect with you online on social media, or learn about the work that you're doing, get involved, or hit you up for info on that, how can they do so?
Tackle16.com is probably the easiest way. Go through the website. I think there's links on there for email addresses and stuff. And I'm not hard to find on social media at all. So type in ERIKSHAW on Facebook and it's going to pull me up. So, and we got social media for Tackle 16 and stuff like that. So we're out there. We're easy to find. And, if we can help, we're definitely going to do our best to do that. And if we can't help you, don't slam me on social media. I just couldn't do anything and I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know if people will sign that waiver agreement, but
no, they won't.
But definitely look Erik up, especially if you are somebody who has a story to tell and you want to bring out the message in that story. I know the value of doing that. I know the feedback I've got from people when I share my story and the message from it. is huge. And I promise you it'll be worth your time. So definitely look Erik up. And Erik, thank you so much for taking the time again today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. There you have it. That wraps up another episode of American Snippets. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'd like to personally thank Erik Shaw for being here as well. Don't forget to head on over to americansnippets.com. Check out the featured article that we did on Erik Shaw. Re-listen to the podcast interview. Watch the video interview that we did there as well. And we also include some social media links that you can use to follow Erik on social. On Facebook, Instagram. Make sure you tag us on Facebook or Instagram if you're sharing his article at American Snippets. And if you got any value out of today's episode or any episode that we've done in the past, all that we ask is that you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. I also highly encourage you to go back and listen to last week's podcast episode with Officer Parker. Again, we appreciate you being here today. Don't forget, we're offering a free t-shirt just for being an American patriot and for checking out our community, the Great American Syndicate. Go to greatamericansyndicate.com. Thank you so much for being here. Now go out there and show the world how exceptional you truly are.